The shadows of storm and night, the mysteries of life and light, from unearthly peculiarities, celestial and divine, to apparitions and transcendental signs, to the Spirit Podcast.
Some beings are said to watch us. Others guard the threshold we pass through. But what about the highways of energy themselves? The ley lines, the spirit roads, the dragon veins. Who rules those? Tonight, we're going there. Into the territory of the line barons, those mysterious landlords of the unseen highways beneath our feet. Their names are whispered in folklore, hinted in architecture, mapped in military grids, and feared by those who know better than to walk alone at a crossroads after dark. Let's begin. Energy lines. Different cultures gave these invisible paths different names. Ley lines in Britain, dragon lines in China, spirit roads in the Americas, fairy paths in Ireland. Always the same story. Unseen highways that connected sacred or haunted places, as if the earth itself has veins. Tracks where power flows, where the veil thins, where spirits walk. And here's the uncanny part. These civilizations had no contact with one another, not back then. Yet they all agreed. Earth has arteries. Invisible, powerful, sometimes dangerous. Let's look closer. In England, it was Alfred Watkins in the 1920s who popularized the term ley lines. He started drawing lines between churches, burial mounds, and megaliths, mapping out alignments that seemed far too deliberate to be chance. But Watkins wasn't inventing anything. He was remembering. Local farmers had long whispered about leys, those old tracks where animals got spooked, the land felt strange, or ghost lights were seen drifting over fields. Some said walking these lines gave you visions, a spiritual side street, or a direct hotline to the strange. Now, shift to the other side of the world. In China, these energy paths were called dragon lines. In Feng Shui, dragon lines are the flow of qi, currents that snake through landforms, connecting peaks, rivers, temples, and tombs. To build in harmony with the dragon line brought prosperity. To build against it, disaster, ruin, or worse. And then we find ourselves in ancient Mesoamerica. Archaeologists uncovered straight, monumental causeways, some stretching miles, built not for travel, but for souls. Spirit roads, avenues connecting temples to tombs, lined with offerings carved to direct the dead on their journey. These weren't roads for the living. These were for the afterlife traffic. In Ireland, you'll hear of fairy paths, the good folk. Fairies, in older tongue, were said to travel certain invisible routes, build a home or fence across one, and you risked illness, tragedy, or something less definable but far worse. Even today, some rural roads in Ireland curve around lone standing stones or ancient mounds, not for construction reasons, but out of respect for the invisible ones. It's not superstition, it's survival. Different continents, different legends, but always the same pattern. Invisible roads, sacred intersections, and consequences. And if these energy highways are real, then maybe someone's been watching them all along. And maybe they don't like trespassers. If ley lines are the highways, then the line barons are the landlords. They're the ones said to govern stretches of energy grid with eerie precision, some benevolent, some territorial, and some hungry. In folklore, they appear as dominion-bearing figures, staking claim to certain crossings, crossroads, or forgotten paths. Sometimes they're protectors, sometimes they demand tribute, but always they watch. And often they extract a toll. That toll might be energy, it might be fear, it might be something that doesn't leave a mark, but still leaves a scar. In older traditions, it was understood. You didn't cross certain sacred ground without ritual. You didn't touch a grave path without permission. You wouldn't walk into a king's hall uninvited. Why would you walk the earth's ancient arteries with no offering? And then there's the word itself, baron. In the feudal world, barons were lords of land. They didn't own the kingdom, but they ruled their slice with absolute authority. The line barons seem no different. They don't own the earth, but they govern parts of it. Their territory is mapped in power lines and ghost roads. Step across, and you've entered their domain. Descriptions vary, but some witnesses' accounts stay consistent. Shadowed figures standing at intersections. Towering silhouettes that never move, only observe. Crossroads watchers who don't blink, don't breathe, just record. And some say these beings don't need to speak. They simply measure you. Others say their presence triggers physical symptoms, sudden dizziness, nosebleeds, emotional disturbances, like something is being withdrawn from you just by walking past. And the mystery deepens. Researchers mapping ley lines started noticing strange patterns. Ancient temples sit at ley line hubs, but so do military bases, government buildings, and banking institutions. Oh, and Stonehenge. That sits at one. Wait a minute, so does the Pentagon. Coincidence? Or something older still? What if today's power centers aren't just practical locations, but strategic ones? What if they've been built intentionally at these intersections of power to tap into ancient energy or appease the ones who rule there? Some occultists take it even further. They say the barons aren't just watchers, they're collaborators. They work with the powerful. They broker unseen deals. And blood spilled on a lay hub, it doesn't just stain the soil, it echoes. Some claim it feeds something, not just the ritual, but the landlord. Guardians, parasites, deal makers, whatever they are, the lesson is the same. If you control the roads, you control the world. Reports of encounters with line barons aren't just whispers from the old world. They're still happening. People describe shadowy figures standing silently near intersections, especially where ancient paths cross modern roads. They describe the sudden urge to turn back, to not take one more step. There are stories of silhouettes at ancient ruins, unmoving, of figures glimpsed by hikers standing beside standing stones, not statues, not hallucinations, but something else, something watching. Now, some even tie these sightings to the infamous Hat Man, that tall, shadowy silhouette with the wide-brimmed hat. A watcher, yes, but maybe more than that. Could he be one of them? A baron in disguise, cloaked in a form we can barely process. Maybe what we call Hat Man is simply a mask, a filter our minds slap on something we can't comprehend. Others report crossroad effects, sudden nosebleeds, GPS glitches, flickering headlights, sleep paralysis episodes after returning from a walk in the woods. They all center around crossings, as if some presence is keeping track of who passes and when. Well, I've got you here. Every Friday, I post a YouTube only series called The Beyond Files, where I dive into some of the strangest clips from the internet: haunted hospitals, time traveler glitches, cursed objects, the usual. But if you're looking for something deeper, something encoded just for the ones walking the flame lit path, I've launched the Signal Path. It's a private tier over on Coffee where I share short, powerful weekly audio transmissions. These are the recordings I don't post anywhere else. They're raw, sacred, and just $5 a month to unlock. So if you want to go deeper with me, head to the link in the description or visit coffee.com/tothespirit. Thanks for listening, and thank you for walking this path with me. Then come the theories. Some say the barrens are just old energy imprints, echoes of rituals long past. Others say they're fully sentient, ancient, and still deeply involved in the human story. And the most extreme? They say these beings are interfacing with the modern world now, that they're being invoked, used, maybe even worshipped in some high places. The power at these intersections is real, but what's unclear is who's harvesting it. There's one last theory I'll offer you here. What if these beings have always been the gatekeepers of influence? Not gods, not demons, just ancient landlords keeping score, taking tolls, and trading power to those bold or foolish enough to strike a deal. What comes next is bigger than lore. It's structure, it's order, and it's older than the religions that tried to name it. We've spent this journey tracing the highways of Earth, veins of power, roads of the dead, and the silent figures who guard them. But now let's step back, zoom out, because the line barons don't exist in a vacuum. They're part of something bigger, something layered, something that feels structured. There are other beings, other forces, spoken of across cultures and timelines. You've likely heard their names, maybe even felt them watching. First, there are the Watchers, cosmic auditors, record keepers, beings who don't interfere, they just observe. Every step you take, every decision, logged, measured, preserved. They're not interested in morality, they're interested in pattern. Then there are the threshold beings, the gatekeepers. They decide who passes through and who doesn't. They guard the veil, the doorways, the turning points. They test, they challenge, they ask you, are you ready? Some appear in dreams, some during death, some right before everything in your life changes without warning. And then there are the line barons, not concerned with your choices, not judging your worth. They care about something more primal: territory. Where you walk, where you stand, what path you take. To them, you're not a story, you're a trespasser, a traveler, or a tenant. It's like a cosmic hierarchy. One sees, one decides, one rules. Watchers, threshold beings, barons. And somewhere inside that triangle of authority is you, just trying to make it through the woods without triggering a toll. Maybe the world isn't chaotic at all. Maybe it's more organized than we're ready to accept. And maybe that's what makes it truly terrifying. What if the line barons aren't spirits at all? What if they're programs? Not in a digital sense, but in the language of energy. Conscious protocols, self-sustaining guardians woven into the Earth's magnetic field. The ancients described them as beings with rules, boundaries, and patterned behavior. And in our time, that sounds less like a ghost and more like an intelligence, one built for enforcement, surveillance, measurement. Some mystics describe the Earth's energy grid as a kind of operating system, a living architecture. The rivers are its veins, the stars are its code, and the ley lines, Those are its circuits. Which raises a possibility. The line barons could be autonomous guardians like spiritual firewalls, not good, not evil, just enforcing the unseen laws of the grid. You don't cross into restricted space without alerting the program. And you don't walk a sacred line without your frequency being scanned. That would explain the dizzy spells, the nosebleeds, the knowing gaze from across the field. These entities aren't hunting. They're running protocols. And you are a blip on their radar. Let's pull no punches here. Humanity has a long and bloody history of building on land we do not understand. We dynamite sacred mounds, we pave spirit roads, we mock what was meant to be honored. We call it development, but the land remembers. Every time a culture has tried to conquer the sacred, it has collapsed from within because the energy doesn't bend to pride, it bends to reverence. Maybe the reason haunted places stay haunted is because the barons never received an offering, because someone crossed the lines and called it progress. So let me say it plainly. The land is not yours. It never was. You were invited to walk it and were warned not to claim it. And some of those warnings wear shadows. This is Truth and Fire, and the toll is still due. So where does that leave us? If the Watchers observe, if the threshold beings test, and if the barons rule, then we are what moves between the living, the forgetful, the ones who don't even realize the path we're walking has been mapped 1,000 times before. Maybe that's the real fear. Not that ghosts exist, not that aliens visit, not that demons tempt, but that this place, this reality we think we understand, it's managed, it's structured, watched, weighed, tethered. Maybe the coldest truth isn't that we're being haunted, but that we're being documented. There's a haunting idea passed around in certain circles, that every step you take is recorded, every word you speak measured, not for punishment, but for positioning. You're being placed, assigned, scanned by a system that knows what it's doing, even if you don't. Maybe when the veil thins, it's not random. Maybe it's the line barons letting you feel the infrastructure for just a moment before it slips back beneath your feet. Not as a warning, but as a reminder, you're not alone. You never were. And the road you walk was claimed long before you were born. So maybe hauntings aren't accidents. Maybe they're notifications, like static flaring when you step off your path, or warnings when you cross into a domain that doesn't belong to you. Maybe those sudden shivers, the dreams that don't feel like dreams, the unshakable feeling of being watched, aren't symptoms, they're citations. You've wandered onto a road that isn't yours, and the landlord took note. Mystics say it's all one tapestry, that watchers, threshold beings, and line barons are masks worn by the same force, a force that shifts shape depending on where you stand and what you're ready to see. Others argue they're separate, a cosmic bureaucracy, auditors, gatekeepers, landlords, all working their part to keep reality functioning. Whether they're distinct or unified, here's the takeaway. The unseen world isn't chaos, it's order, it's structure, and we are not at the top of it. We're the ones walking lines we barely understand, mistaking silence for absence, mistaking coincidence for grace. So the next time you're standing at a crossroads or walking through a forest trail that feels heavier than it should, pause. Feel the shift in the air, smell the iron, listen to the quiet, because you may have just crossed a baron's line, and like any landlord, they always know who's passing through. This has been Truth and Fire. Until next time, walk lightly, speak clearly, and honor the roads beneath your feet, because not all highways are built for us. Some are built to measure us. In love, in mystery. I'll see you on the next path.
To the spirit podcast,
supernatural science,
I'm ghost.
psychic,
mystic,
Spirit.
divine source, heaven,
The dead.
magic, magic.